Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of the 17th Annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. And happy Valentine's Day. And it's also happy Ferris Wheel Day. Who would have thought? Uh, we have with us Michelle Bartlett, James Bartlett, and Mitchell Williams. They are professors at Old Dominion University, and they're going to talk about unpacking distance learners' experience with in-person summer institutes. Take it away.
All right, thank you for having us. So we are all professors in a community college leadership program, and we offer a PhD in community college leadership. Um, it is a 54 credit hour postmaster's degree program, and it is fully online other than the Summer Institute. And so we did this research project to find out what our students were thinking about the Summer Institute, considering they chose an online program and we bring them in on campus face to face. We also have a stackable certificate in the program. So once they've completed certain courses, they get a certificate as well. And we do have written and oral comps, comprehensive exams, and a dissertation as well. So a little bit about the Summer Institute. So we will typically have two cohorts. We'll have first year students and second year students that come into our campus in Norfolk, Virginia. And our primary focus is to really get them to know one another and know their faculty a little bit better, build a sense of community, not just within their group, but within getting to know some of the other students in the first year students getting to know the second year and vice versa. And so they usually have like an informal get together between the two groups. Often they're in different courses because they're in different parts of their program. So it's really good for them to get to know each other and learn from each other. And it's really helpful to meet the faculty because often when they're in a doctoral program, they're selecting a chair, a dissertation chair or advisor. It's nice to know and build that relationship with the faculty. So what we did was really this evaluation using a qualitative one-shot case study. So this is where you just collected data at one point and in time, and maybe over the years we could build upon that and make it a little more longitudinal. But the findings that we'll talk about today are really from this one-shot case study. So we had 15 participants. We had 9 that were second year PhD students and 6 who were first year, their first time being at the Summer Institute. And we had made some major changes to the Summer Institute program. It was 2 weeks where they would stay in a dorm on campus, and we switched it to 1 week, and they stayed at a hotel across the street from campus. And so we wanted to kind of first make sure that they had a good experience and that they were able to accomplish all of the things that we wanted them to in 1 week versus the 2 week. And so the voices of those second year people who had experienced both was really helpful in that. And then the voice of the people who it was their first experience was really helpful for us to see if they were talking about the things that we wanted them to talk about, and such as the networking and connection and things like that. So, 7 of the interviews were conducted by me. 8 of them were conducted by Dr. Mitch Williams, and they were conducted within 1 week of Summer Institute ending. My interviews were people who signed up prior to attending the Summer Institute, so they had not experienced this format yet when they signed up. And then we did like a second announcement inviting interviews after. And Dr. Mitch Williams interviewed those students, and we wanted to see if there was a difference, not like a statistical difference, it's qualitative, but to see if there was a difference in people who signed up after. Sometimes we think like they're the ones that will have a complaint or some, or a major reason to all of a sudden want to sign up to be interviewed when they didn't before, but there was really no difference. A lot of them were sharing the same kind of stories. And we did our interviews over Zoom and using Otter AI to help capture the audio and transcribe. So when we were analyzing the data, we use Intellectus, and Intellectus works, it has both a quantitative and a qualitative software. We use the qualitative, and it works very much like any other qualitative software tool in Vivo or Deduce or any of those, but it also has an AI option. We didn't use the AI option. To be quite honest, I don't know how yet to use that part of the tool, but I just wanted to, you know, acknowledge that this is the software that we used. And so it works much like the others where you highlight and name codes and categories and themes and things like that. So let's get into the results. All right. So our first research question was, how do these online PhD students perceive the challenges of the face-to-face Summer Institute? And is this, really a hindrance to recruitment or retention in our program was our goal. And it really came down to these two themes, balancing work and personal well-being, and then also the preparation to attend and being in those academic settings. And so we'll break that down a little bit further. So some of the codes that went with the theme balancing work and personal well-being is on the slide, along with some of the direct quotes from our participants. And they really talked about having that preparation of having to make sure their work calendars were freed up as much as possible, getting their home and their family um, ready to go, getting their peers and colleagues at work ready for their absence. And then, juggling needing to be in class all day and then log in from the hotel at night and get a couple hours of work in answering emails because they felt like no matter how much they prepared prior, work didn't just stop for the week. And there was some things that were critical and needed their attention. And so then they would have to get up in the morning and have class all day again. And it just, it was a little bit of a balance for them to do that. And so many of them talked about uh, people at work needing them quite often with emails and texts, but also home, honey, where did you put this? Where did you put that? Or, and so they were kind of juggling um, these two things while they were at a distance. But one participant actually told me it's really no different than when I'm at work. When I'm at work, it's just different in that it's not an email or a text. They're knocking on the door. Um, or home is texting, where's this, where's that? So um, for some people, it felt a little bit like a normal workday. And then we did have one outlier, one student who comes from another state. So our tuition, our out-of-state tuition is just a couple dollars more than our in-state tuition. And so really we have students from all over the US and beyond. And so we had this one student that was from Arizona who came in or was it Utah? Now I don't remember, but they were from another state and they came in and they talked about how it kind of felt hard to fit in because there were people who already knew each other and who were more local. But that was really an outlier experience, and I'm happy to report that by the end of Summer Institute, this participant fit right in and had a whole group of people that they network with and still stay very close with now. So, our second theme in the challenges area was around preparing to attend in the academic settings, preparing to actually be in class. And then you can see here one student talking about how it was the longest they had ever been away from their family in 21 years. And so it was really difficult for focus and their heartstrings were kind of a little homesick and missing. And then the assignment workload and needing more prior communication. So This was a new format for us, and so we had spent lots of meetings preparing, but maybe didn't do as good of a job explaining that to the students of what this would look like and where to go and a map of where the classes were instead of just saying, we're meeting in room 1201, where is room 1201 for these people who don't come to campus every day. And so we learned a lot about how to prepare for next year and giving them more access to that information. And then some of the challenges were talked about in class, like we wish we could have had shorter class presentations. They absolutely, this particular class, they all spoke so highly of the faculty member, and they're like, we wanted to learn more from them. They're such an expert, and they hang on to those words of wisdom that come from that experience. And so they were wanting to have less group work and less presentations and more time with hearing the faculty member. Um, and then a couple of people said there was really no challenge at all. So moving into research question two, these are the benefits, right? So we got the challenges out of the way. Let's talk about the good stuff. So what are the benefits these online PhD students perceived around attending this face-to-face summer institute? And they talked about the benefits of in-person learning. A lot of them were surprised about this. And then the personal and professional growth that they weren't expecting. So they knew they were coming to campus. They knew they were going to get to know their peers and their faculty, and they knew that they would have assignments and coursework. They weren't really expecting the kind of networking and personal growth. So we'll move into that. So building community and networking, a lot of the students talked about how they were surprised about how many doors were opened, how many people they met that did similar roles as them, guest speakers that came in, honored distinguished speakers that came in that they met at lunch times or in class time. They were able to meet even with, they took a field trip over to the library and meet the librarians. We have students still, even just last week, that said, oh, I have an appointment with a librarian, and this is a student that lives across the country. And so forging that relationship during Summer Institute to reconnect with the librarian as needed for coursework and dissertation work. And then they talked about kind of uncovering that hidden curriculum that happens. So the first year students talking to the second year students about how do you build a dissertation committee? What was the comps process like for you? And getting some of that information. So, and then, connections with one another because they're all similarly working in most of them in community colleges and leadership roles, wanting to move up into higher leadership roles. All right. And so a lot of them talked about the guest speakers and how the energy was different in person. They love their guest speakers online, but they just felt a different kind of connection and energy in person. So that was exciting to know. That makes it worth flying people out for Summer Institute and feeding them a nice lunch and letting them have that. And then many of the students talked about how they felt so much more prepared and grounded and comfortable in what the pathway looked like to the end. They knew they had to finish coursework, they knew they had a dissertation at the end, but the time at the Summer Institute and hearing everybody talk in that time with the faculty and being able to ask questions that weren't around the topic of the class and more around like programmatic questions casually at lunch or after at the hotel lobby at happy hour or something. They said, it really helped define my pathway and kind of know how I need to get to the finish line. And so that was helpful because there really is a doctoral program is different than many master's or undergraduate programs in that there really is a lot of this hidden curriculum that isn't talked about. And so they were able to leave feeling a little bit more sure of themselves. And so that was really good. So their personal and professional growth, they talked about being able to really refine like their dissertation topic and really a lot of these quotes that you'll read and the interviews that that we heard from them is really about like defining their own brand and knowing who they were and where their research interests were and how it was impactful to the field as a whole. And so where do they fit in as a scholar in this community? And so they said that they really, hadn't like thought much about publishing and now they are. They hadn't thought about presenting at conferences and now they are thinking about those things because they're hearing other students at the Summer Institute talk about, oh, I presented my research at this conference. So much more of that hidden curriculum becoming uncovered. And then they talked about how they were reading more critically rather than just reading the assigned readings to check the box, that they were actually digging in and becoming, so they were seeing themselves as a different type of scholar, a more deeper, critically thinking scholar because of that time in person. Um, every single one of our students talked about imposter syndrome in some way. They might not have named it out. Many of them did name it out, but they were all talking about, should I be here? What am I doing here? And can I do this? These people are so impressive around me. We would do introductions around the room and they thought, nope, I should not be in this room with these people. And the Summer Institute helped them feel like that they should be there. And so the quote there at the bottom, I had a lot of anxiety coming because I definitely have that imposter syndrome that like I'm really not that smart enough. And eventually one of you guys are going to find out, meaning the faculty, that they were really nervous about coming to Summer Institute because they felt like they could put on a facade in Zoom, but that if we saw them in person, we would see right through the facade and we would be like, you shouldn't be here. And I just thought, what a heavy thing to carry, what a heavy thing. And so um, it makes me wonder how many other online students are feeling that way. And how, what can we do to help reassure them that they were selected to be here by a team of people who looked at their materials and believe that not only do they belong here, but that they can be successful, in this learning environment. And then they talked about how it benefited them professionally. So they got to talk to their college president or their leaders about this opportunity because this, hey, I need to step away for a week, led to opportunities of why I'm furthering my education and I'm going to be going to experience, this intense learning week with some experts, and I'm going to come back and bring that knowledge back to you all. In fact, well, this might be later on, but one of the people said that the president was so impressed with the opportunity to come and have this intensive learning experience that they actually covered the travel as a professional development. So they also talked about learning about the community college system as a whole. So a lot of them know their role in the community college and they know other people in their role, but having their classmates talk about the different pieces, their leaders in other areas, they got to know more about the community college. And many of them said, I learned more in this week around how the community college system works as a whole than I have working in the community college for over 10 years. All right, so our third research questions, what improvements could be made? So if you remember, we had started a new kind of style of delivering the Summer Institute, and we wanted to know what changes could we make. And so they had lots to say around this, which was really helpful. And so they talked about the duration and the preparations, enhancing the overall experience, and then accommodations and amenities, because we had switched from the dorm to the hotel. We wanted to make sure that was a good choice for them. And so let's dive into that. So, thinking around the Summer Institute duration and preparation, there was overwhelming that they really were glad it was 8 days. A lot of them felt like that was so much more manageable, that they could stay focused the full 8 days versus the 14, and that it was helped a little bit with balancing. Um, we did have one person that was that had wished it was 14 days because he really wanted it was like a vacation for him and he didn't want it to end. Not the coursework, but the getting away getting away from life and everything. And he'll come up again as the outlier for a different question. So these are just some improvements that we thought about making. Uh, you know, uh, Based on what they said. So they said, I was not looking forward to any of the presentations from other students. They really wanted to hear from the faculty member. They didn't want to hear from their peers. Um, One of them said they really liked learning from case studies and having group discussions that were led by the faculty members. So it was a suggestion to add more of those, more in-person guest speakers. They really enjoyed having these people in person where they could go up and talk afterwards and connect with them. And then they wanted more help with APA writing. So when we go to visit the library next time, maybe we could dive into that topic specifically. A lot of them went after class to go to the bookstore and it was closed by the time class was over. And they were really excited to get like merchandise that had the school branding on it. And so they were like, can we build in a field trip during class time where we can go to the bookstore? Many of them really wanted that. They were sad that they couldn't um, see the bookstore. Um, and then they really liked, so one of our faculty members brings in recent graduates to talk to them, and they love that. That went over so well. And then they talked about we have a Dubois lecture that's during lunchtime, and they thought about maybe having an actual lunch break where they can have a mental break and move the lecture to like evening because they said it was hard to pay attention in class all morning, plus also want to pay attention to this lecture and then pay attention all afternoon, and they didn't really get that mental break. And so that was a suggestion there. And then again, so that last comment about not having guest speakers at lunch 2 days back to back, they really felt like it was really brain intensive to not have that break. And so they said, maybe just give us a sandwich and let us go sit outside and just be alone with nature and like clear our brains for a little while instead of having a big fancy lunch where we have to keep networking and engaging. And then around the hotels versus dorms, so they really liked, not having to walk all the way across campus. They could go into their own private hotel room and, teach class if they were teaching or answer emails. So they liked that. There was one student, that outlier that wanted the Summer Institute to stay 14 days. He also didn't want the hotel because he was very extroverted, very social, and he was like, I like the dorm. I like being with four people that we could just talk all night, so you could he just really was wanting the social aspect of everything. I don't know that any of the other of his cohort mates or peers felt the same way, but he definitely felt that way. And then, some of the complaints around the hotel was some people like flew in early in the morning and the rooms weren't ready. And so that was kind of frustrating, which I think we can work out with the hotel. We got a group rate, a block rate. I think we could work out like an earlier check-in time. Um, and then one of them said it was a little bit expensive, although to counter that, another interviewee said that the hotel actually was the same price or cheaper because we got the group discount and they at the dorm they had to bring or buy like a fan, an area rug, because they said they didn't really like walking on the tile floor that looked like it was 40 years old or whatever. And then they had to bring their own bedding and sheets and towels. And so many of them didn't pack that, especially if they flew. So they were having to buy that at Target or whatever. And so they said it was actually cheaper for them to stay at the hotel. So that's just the other side of that. So then thinking about the building facilities, I love this. This makes me laugh every time I look at this. So we host the Summer Institute. There's so many moving pieces. It takes all of our whole team to get this to run smoothly. And then you do an evaluation and they're talking about could we have coffee? Like, could you bring a coffee pot in the class? Or it was a little too cold. And I thought we must have done something right if these were the level of the things that they were complaining about. And obviously, we can definitely accommodate a warmer room or bringing a K-cup machine. They're like, I brought my K-cups and there was no machine. And so we have several of those upstairs in the break room. So these are so easy to accommodate, but not exactly what I was expecting that they would be talking about. And so I thought, well, this is good. This is good. And then they talked about the seating arrangement. So they really prefer one of our classrooms has this big kind of U shape, and then other classrooms are rows, and they really preferred the U shape, which kind of goes along with the what we know with andragogy and pedagogy and things like that, with how adults like to learn and talk with one another, the conversation. And then this kind of is just reiterating what I was already talking about, that the lunch break didn't really feel like a break. They got lunch and they were happy and grateful that we were feeding them. In fact, they weren't even expecting that. They were expecting to have to pay for their own lunch, some of the first year people. Um, but they said there was just no downtime for their brain. And so, if I'm in class all morning and then I have to network or listen to this really intense and good, they love the quality of the speakers, but it just was a little bit intense for them. And then it made them feel very drained by the end of the day. So that's an easy change for us and really good feedback. We're really grateful for that. So knowing all of this, some recommendations that we thought about were, maximizing engagement and community building. So what are more ways we build in a lot of ways to do that, but what are other ways that we can do more structured networking sessions, some social events that are optional, collaborative group activities, kind of moving them outside and connecting outside, and building those relationships and building their connection with the campus as well, this campus that they're a part of, and make them feel more like an ODU monarch, by showing them around a little bit. Building in ways to have them share experiences and support each other. Um, and then for the second thing, to provide comprehensive pre-event information support. So that was something that was really clear that we needed to do. They weren't really complaining, they weren't upset about it, but we don't want people, you invite them to campus and then them to feel confused or not know where to go. And so knowing that we can tell them up front, internet access, what meals will be provided, maybe some packing tips, because a lot of them said we didn't know which day we were going to have to. Was the Dubois lecture, I would have dressed up a little bit more. If I had known ahead of time, I would have packed a more fancy outfit or something like that. And then giving them that detailed agenda that lets them know, what the experience will be, what they can expect when they come. And then looking at optimize the event schedule for effective time management, thinking about, okay, we've got this 1 week, it's intense, it's condensed, and how can we minimize disruption to their personal and professional lives? Like, should we build in 30 minutes of, okay, everybody, check your emails, call home, deal with what you've got to do for this amount of time, and then they'll be more focused when they come back, and kind of being more mindful about making lunch breaks so that we prevent burnout and those kind of things. I've been at conferences before, like in-person research conferences, where they build in check your email time, and it does really help then to focus on the presentations that are happening. So kind of applying that there for our students. And that is what we've got. And so we have here a QR code for the slides, but we also shared the link, which I believe will be put online. Thank you.
I tell you, okay, first off, that sounds like great, actionable feedback. I mean, that's really what you wanted,
Yeah.
exactly, those kinds of things, so you could adjust. That's great. I was appalled that one person I asked to go to lunch with, they told her no.
I know.
Does that? I would never do that.
I know. Yeah, I know. It was hard when it was hard to keep my interviewer hat on and not put my mama bear hat on and say, "Who was it? You tell me who did that." You know. But it worked out great, and she's very assimilated into the program, and she has her buddies, and so it turned out well.
I could understand why having an 8 day session instead of 2 weeks is better because, yeah, it would be hard when I was working. Yeah, it would have been hard to take 2 full weeks off together and be gone. So all that feedback was great. In fact, even about the room temperature, when I was in a position where we did courses by video conference to our branch campuses, I asked for feedback at the end of every term from the students. One of our campuses, they complained about how cold it was, and they had to sit there for like 3 or 4 hours freezing. And man, that should be something easy to fix. It turned out it
Yeah.
wasn't easy to fix, but still, we got to fix because these people are paying money to sit in the cold.
Yeah, maybe we could get some swag ODU blankets. Let them
Yeah,
cozy up.
well, I think it was because the building was pretty much shut down in the evening. So, they turned down the temperature. But,
Mhm.
that wasn't making life easier for the students.
Yeah.
How many are usually in the core cohorts?
Mitch?
We each cohort usually has 15 to 17 students. So at Summer Institute, we have about between 30 and 35 students
And
because there's two cohorts are there together.
so, and the vast majority come from within Virginia.
It's about 60% from outside of Virginia, 40% from within the Commonwealth. As Michelle mentioned, we charge in-state tuition to everyone. So out of state, we're very competitive tuition wise for people who are outside of Virginia. And we do draw a large number outside of Virginia now.
And you're right. A lot of schools now are doing that with tuition. I mean, it's so competitive with getting students nowadays.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys are thinking about changing with the Institute?
I think we're always looking and we're open to changing the Summer Institute. We've been doing the Summer Institute for 23 years now, and it changes and evolves continuously, and we're always open to making changes to make it more effective for the students. When our students graduate, we, do a informal poll with them. What did you like? What would you change in the program? And pretty consistently, they say that the time on campus was really valuable to their success in the program. So
I
we just
know
we
if
make
I were in
tweaks.
that program, I would really look forward to meeting in person the people I've met only online. And
Yeah. Yeah, and they do, it's funny because they'll say, "Oh, you're taller than I expected. You're shorter than I expected." Some of them have taken one or two or more classes, bef with these people before coming in person, and so it's fun. It's fun to see them connect.
good. At what point in their program do you do that?
So
First
it's
year,
always
second year, both years, or
they come both years, and so but we have rolling admissions, so they might have already taken fall and spring classes before their first summer institute. Or some of our first years, the Summer Institute is their first class.
no? Hmm. That's got to be a different dynamic for them versus the other folks.
Yeah, I think that it takes them a little longer, like the story about the dinner invitation. Take some, they're brand new. They don't know anybody yet, whereas some people have already formed, they've worked on group projects together, maybe in the prior semester. But by the end of Summer Institute, they're all gelled together.
Yeah, yeah. If I were doing it, yeah, I would make an effort to break up those groups that already know each other,
Yeah.
because they should get different viewpoints.
Yeah.
And then the person who had that imposter feeling, we
Yeah, they
probably
all
all
did.
felt that
They
way.
all felt that way.
Everyone, yeah.
hmm Which is sad. That's so sad because a whole team of faculty sit around a table and we look at your application materials and we decide that this is somebody who is able to make it through this program. And somebody who will be bettered by the program and somebody who we know can complete the program. And so and getting that message out to them, letting them know like how this admissions process on our end looks and that we all believed in them when we invited them to come.
Your guest speakers come in by Zoom.
Some, but also many will come in Summer Institute, they'll come in person. Yeah.
For the classes that we're holding, the speakers usually come in by Zoom because they're there for an hour or 2 hours. But then we'll have luncheon speakers or evening speakers who will speak to the entire group, and they often come in person.
Well, I imagine there's a cost involved bringing them in. So, the other thing, something I've done in the past too, in terms of guest speakers, have them guests in discussion boards. So for 3 days, this guest is going to be available on the discussion board. You set up the topic, you do some prep with the students, but then they can engage with this person for 3 days or something.
That's a great idea. That's a great use of discussion boards.
And you get really it is then a lot of back and forth, but the key is the prep you do beforehand.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Hey,
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time, and I guarantee you they will be watching the recording. But what you're doing, yeah, it's great. And so happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you very much.